Hi, Decoders. This week we're still talking about love and all the different ways that we love one another. I have a sweet little teaching called Red Love, Blue Love, so let's get back to it.
Hi, I'm Kiran Trace. Welcome to Humans Decoded, a story of hobbits, fairies, elves, dwarfs, gnomes, and humans. If you get lost at any point, there is a deep dive on all the different avatars in episode 1. It includes notes. Thank you for joining us in a fun little chat about the vast potential of our human makeup.
Hi, Cam. Hi, Leela.
Hi, Decoders. Hi, Kiran, Cami. Yay, back here.
Hi, everybody. So we're back here again, talking about love and the people we love and how we love them. And just a quick recap, red love is the hot, romantic, idealized kind of love, but it actually comes with a lot of stories and agendas. And blue love is when there is a lot more freedom for the other person to just be, and you're not carrying them around. It's a lot more impersonal, and ironically, it allows for more love to come in than red love, which is cluttered with all the little agendas.
So I want to get into like what makes the red love so addictive, because I feel like we haven't addressed that enough yet, because otherwise, if it wasn't so addictive, everybody would just be like, oh, cool, let's choose blue love and be done with the red love. But there's something in there that makes it highly addictive.
You know, we have a lot of mental activity. We have sometimes between us, we'll call it like filters of the mind. You know, these like, it's not just one belief system, but it's like 2, 3, 4 built on each other. And, you know, we talk about this in the podcast a lot. There's the mental filters are blocking us from reality. And in reality there's an intimacy and this love, you know, as Cami was describing it. And so what's happening is these filters are just built in, blocking us. And so in the absence of the intimacy of the present moment, we're bouncing between belief systems. We're sort of insulated here. And that starves us for connection and warmth and love, because you can't find that in these layers and layers and layers of belief, you know, and mental storyline. So what happens is we very innocently lean into an enormous myth that the connection and the warmth, the love we're looking for will happen if we meet the like perfect person. But many of us have. You do it. And there wasn't this constant, ongoing connection, warmth, and love.
Yes, can attest to that.
So then we think that we need that family, that nuclear family, right? Mom, or 2 parents and the kids. And many of us decoders, we've had that. And we didn't find this constant connection and warmth and love. So then you go and get the dog and it's not necessarily there. Then you go and get more plants and you get the designer it house. I don't know. Like our society is full of do this and then you'll get it. But it's all these external movements. Meanwhile, your own being is just bouncing in this cocoon of storylines. So the filters are blocking us from this profound field right here in the present moment. But we got to drop all of those filters in order to really get that love. And then the attachment, the red love, the attachment, it just lets go. Because then it's too much effort. It's not true. It's not alive. We're not trying to get something out here. And then the trying is deeply exposed as pure effort. When you're just living in this connected field of radiance and love that isn't going away. Like there it is, you know? And from that place, it's very simple for blue love to spill out. But, you know, here we are, pretty innocent. Sometimes people just will keep having lots and lots of children, or lots and lots of cats, or lots and lots of dogs, or lots and lots of plants, without necessarily being available, for instance, to parent a lot of children. But we're just innocently, deeply craving this connection and warmth and the myth of this cozy family. You know, if we're in this like nest, this cozy place, so then we keep having the kids or the dogs. But in truth, it takes quite a setup to have a lot, let's say, children in a fulfilling way. You need a lot of people involved. You need a lot of finances involved. I mean, there's a lot of needs, big houses, lots of rooms, you know, college accounts for all of them. In the absence of any kind of organic setup that would accommodate it, there's just this innocence trying to look, like deeply looking for the love that won't go away, this unconditional love that's going to hold them no matter what. And it's in the 23rd plant you bought this weekend, or the 3rd dog you brought home, or the 5th cat, or the like pregnant, hoping, you know, that it's here in our 5th child, you know.
But plot twist, that love that you're looking in the 23 plants and 4th child and ultimate designer bedding, that love is you. The unconditional love is you. And also, I did just buy designer bedding. And maybe a little part of me is like, I might be a little bit better once I have that bedding.
Like I hear Kiran say the 5th cat. I'm like, yep, I was there. Also tried that. Didn't work. It was a shit show. So this episode, it so deeply talks to me, you know, like all the things I've tried and failed. But yeah, as Cami's saying, this unconditional love is you, and then you as the unconditional love connecting with another, knowing that their unconditional love too, like then there's no filters, no agenda or story. Gosh, I mean, that's what actually makes for true intimacy. That's where the actual connection lives, as we keep pointing out here. And the red love that is portrayed as this super intimate thing, yeah, no, it's not the real connection. It doesn't touch the point that is craving connection so badly. And yeah, the ironically, it can only come from this blue love itself. It can only come from just being the love, or sitting in this spacious, loving presence itself.
Ooh. Yeah. And then when you do connect with people in blue love, in actual intimacy, it's the most joyous and the most beautiful and the most love, and quite the opposite of what you think you'd get with red love. Like the exclusivity or the attachment or the need to be with you all the time is going to get me all the love, but it's the total opposite. The freedom is what gets you the enormous love. And so it goes for the people that practice red love inside of my life. You know, they're still around, but me knowing myself as blue love, or as love itself, surprisingly, it actually means that I love them more. It doesn't matter so much how they come at me, because there's just this love. And I'm not so concerned with how they're loving me. And I can see the innocence in the red love. Like, it's pretty stupid, but it's still
innocent, right?
Innocent.
So
yeah.
innocent.
Yeah, and there's just like full compassion, and there's just no separation. There's no real them or me. It's unfathomable amounts of love that open up, and it swallows everything, even the red love.
Yeah, and our addiction to red love is that we live in a world that feels bereft of intimacy. And that's particularly painful in marriages or parenting relationships. When you're in relationship with another being consistently, but there's no real intimacy because it ends up just being these layers of role. And there's this attachment. So you have this agenda to play this role. I am your mother. It's my job to worry as your mother. I mean, right there is so many belief systems blocking the actual connection and the warmth. So that's what ends up meeting each other over and over again. And there's a bereftness for never really feeling seen or heard. And then we create more ridiculous myths like, I'll know it's my real love because they'll be able to read my mind. Or, just this ridiculous setups of romance instead of the solution, Let go of the roles, let go of the attachment. And all of that just seems so anti-intuitive when you're craving intimacy. It's so counterintuitive. But if you try to deepen a role, you end up getting more and more of these bereft emptiness, dead, dull situations, sensations. The answer is in the opposite direction.
Kiran has these lovely newsletters that you get in your inbox. P.S. If you haven't signed up, I'd recommend them because I always forget that they exist, and then every now and then it lands in my inbox, and it's just always a really nice surprise. And often they have these sweet little gems, and one of them really stayed with me recently, and it's this quote on relationship. And it says, "It's a place where you can say yes and no without any kind of guilt or punishment. A state of interconnectedness that invites you to leave or come and be supported to do just that, instead of being held accountable for disrupting the harmony. An aligned relationship is where all you want for the other is that they know freedom and peace. It is not a place where you get freedom or peace through the other's actions, and it's not something you craft your identity around." So that's your template.
There's Blue Love. A sweet little gem in your inbox one day. Blue Love. Do you know, in that same newsletter, though, I asked, can you do this? Are you actually available to rise up to this? In order to do it, you must examine your attachments. And I think that that's really an ongoing thing. And we've talked about this. It's a practice. Blue love is really where you want to be. It's not like you dropped all your attachments and then it's done once and for all. It's always these myths and these awakening spaces, like the enlightened one will never need to, whatever. But it's not. It's a practice. You keep having to examine those attachments every single day.
Yeah, this place of done and arrived, finished, it doesn't exist. And I can't stress enough that, it's one thing to sit here and talk to you guys and be like, oh yeah, sure, blue love, cool. So clear, so obvious, yes. But then to go, quote unquote, out there and live it in the world, like, oh my God, it's a completely different story, because like being in it, being in the movie, and there's all your baggage. And it has lots of opinions about this relationship, about this other being, about this third cat. about this trip.
One more plant.
One more plant and maybe this baby. And gosh, it's such a practice to keep, like, to me, it's always this picture of like turning each stone around and look underneath and look what's there. What is it? And Jesus, yeah, that's definitely ongoing, as Kiran said, for sure.
Ugh. And I think it's always also surprising that different relationships or different people will trigger you in different ways. You never really know which one's gonna
Right.
boot up your gremlins. And with some people, it's just so easy, and it's a non-thing to have this totally beautiful, non-attached blue love. And then sometimes you meet someone and you just want to consume each other in this like ultra agenda. I need you for myself. I need you to be this specific way. I need you to complete me. Kind of a way. And it could be with a friend or a romantic partner, or it could be with your dog. Yeah, you don't know which one's going to come along and knock you off your balance and grab you.
I was recently with some friends, and we were sorting out a kind of a family setup that had started recently, turning over those stones. Mom had recently gone back to work, and habitually in this new workplace was working, as Dad would call it, late, and thinks that she should be home sooner. And he's very certain that the kids need that, the family needs that, everybody needs that, and he's bouncing inside of his filters of what it's supposed to be. P.S. He's a dwarf, so there's this real intense focus on that. But, the kids, if you talk to them, they didn't necessarily agree. They just sort of were like, that's Dad's story. And, it takes a minute to just untangle, like turn over those stones of these collective stories, and see what happens. Mom, who's a lovely hobbit, she gets home and attends to the family, and attends to the pottering, but in her is this guilt, like from bouncing off of her husband's story that she should have been home earlier. And so she arrives home in this click to grid, make sure everyone's needs are attached. And there's just this entanglement of story and attachments. And kind of like defined what was true, it was like asking the kids, what's true? Like, does Mom need to be sitting here at dinner to be really delicious for, it's like, no, like when examined, the kids just wanted some time with her, actually after dinner, some cuddle time, some Mom being there to, do a bath routine or do a book or something like that. Like there wasn't a story really inside of them about what they needed. And, it was really, really sweet to unpack Mom's story, sweet hobbit. She could have sworn that she got home early every time. She's like, I'm pretty sure I always get home at 6. But when we unpack the attachment, right, like I'm supposed to be home by 6. Like my family needs it, this echo chamber in someone's belief system. And it's like, actually, when we unpack it, she leaves work at 6, and that sweet, lovely hobbit who's going to check all the details for everything, right? So she's going to clean off her office space, and she's going to check the office itself, and maybe clean the break room, and she's going to put on their proper outdoor clothes, and she's going to start up the car and get it warm before she drives home, so she's home at 7, and to Dad, he's like, you're home at 7. And in her head, she's like, I leave at 6. Like, what are you talking about? And so to pull over those attachments, undo those attachments, what is really true about when you get home and what do you need? And ironically, one of the things when we really pulled apart Dad's attachment of like, does she have to be there to help you make dinner? Does she have to be there to serve dinner? Like, where is the yes place? And in fact, it was just feeling bereft of connection. And that would be so much better served once she puts the kids to bed, or once they put the kids to bed. They very much raise the children together collectively, but when they put the kids to bed, there's much more space for that connection that he was really looking for. But it felt like he was going to get it from this cozy family unit. And so she needed, like la, 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 la. I think a lot of us can be familiar with examples like this, where we're just like, like bouncing off of our stories and our assumptions and our beliefs, instead of like, what's actually true? What do you actually want? I want to snuggle with Mom. Great. And then back to Mom. It's like, what if when you came home, all you did was sit on the couch and snuggle the kids, instead of this click to grid, tidy the kitchen, make sure, like it all just can find much more connection, much more warmth. Much more intimacy with each other starts to shine around all that. And I think you can feel it, like you can, even as I'm describing it, what it would be like to just come home and have home being the place that you rest and snuggle the kids, that the evening routine with Mom, is spacious, that after the kids are, tucked into bed, there's time for Mom and Dad to have some connection. And even, in the cuddles and the connection there, the physical touch. It's a dwarf and a hobbit, for heaven's sakes. It's physical touch, like not words. And then suddenly you can just feel like, the warmth of that and the actual connection of what's true. And you can feel this like vibration of intimacy that arrives, the very thing you're looking for. It was available, but you had to drop all these attachments.
I noticed exactly that attachment to a story with, the upcoming 70th birthday of my mom. It's her first birthday without Dad. And so the story inside of me goes, certainly I have to do something to show her how much I love her. And at the same time, I can quite clearly see what would be delicious, which is my mom and my two brothers are coming to where I live. And we spend a couple of days together. They live in their own, like rental holiday apartment. And we just do little hikes and little meals here and there. But there's lots of spaciousness for me to just, keep doing what I'm doing. This podcast, my sessions, living my life. And that's super sweet and super nourishing. And that feels like this intimacy that Kiran was just describing, that feels like the cuddles on the sofa. But, that's not their story. So we kind of landed in this compromised place of we're just going to meet on this Sunday and then we're going to go do this climbing garden thing for Mom's birthday. And I know that that's not true, but at the same time, again, I watched myself say yes to it because of that attachment, the attachment to my mom, and surprisingly, the attachment to wanting to be a good daughter, which now that Dad is gone is somehow louder and stronger than it was before. And so here I am, and I don't know what's going to happen for this birthday. I just definitely would like to be aware of the story, to be aware of the attachment to the story, and, not just kind of close my eyes or hold my hand over my eyes and pretend it's not here, because that's not going to be helpful for anybody. And it doesn't create this, it doesn't allow for the intimacy, it doesn't allow for the actual connection to maybe show up in real surprising ways. I don't know.
You'll have to keep us updated.
I will, for sure. Even if it's horribly failed.
Well, we always...
Please hold me accountable. Thank you.
But yeah, I think that just beautifully shows that you never really arrive at a place where you're done and you've mastered blue love. If only. I mean, we wouldn't have this podcast. We'd be done. It wouldn't be an ongoing thing because we all mastered our stuff. But yeah, relationship is such a place of evolution. So they're only going to carry on growing and evolving, and you'll shed some relationships and maybe have some new ones spring up. And I think each one is going to represent a fresh opportunity to be like, where are my gremlins this time? Where do I want to attach and hook in and make this mine? And where do I feel that this person, this thing, this relationship is definitely going to complete me? And I think the more you get to know this unconditional love that is yourself, the more grounded you are in that, the easier it'll be to navigate some of these instances. And I think there's nothing you need to do. If you're lucky enough to have this sort of grace that you want to know truth and this love, and you're willing to excavate for truth, I think those kinds of relationships will naturally start showing up in your life. There'll just be more room to meet people as they truly are. And I think as you show up more authentically, that'll be mirrored back. And it can be mirrored back in surprising ways. I'm always really amazed at some of the friendships I've struck up at work that just seem to come completely out of nowhere. Like they were there all the time, but suddenly we have this time together and it's like, oh, I didn't know my values aligned with yours. I thought the only thing we had in common was film stuff. So yeah, these things can just appear out of nowhere because it's source. So there's no limitations. Or it could be that suddenly you see your sister or your brother again after a long time and there's this ease that was never there before. So life is tremendously generous. So there's always going to be connection. And yeah, there's just a few pointers to maybe help you make those connections even sweeter and more lightweight and more alive.
Yeah, I think you're pointing to it. If the feeling inside is bereft and empty, it's a journey for you to yourself to undo filters that are there. And obviously we could talk about this for a year. Red love, blue love is actually something people send me questions all the time, looking for those nuances and those pointers, because it's hard to spot those attachments. They're so deeply entangled with the story of love, and being loved. I need to be touched this much in a day in order to be loved, or I don't know. There's just story on story. Anyway, we will continue talking about this, but we'd love to hear any stuff that comes up for you, ways you examined your attachments, or ways that you know that you're attached. And also, if you're joining us for any of the fall classes, Course in Fearlessness or Embodiment, this is the last call. This is the last week to register. Okay, well, we love you, Decoders, and we'll see you next week.
Lots of blue love to you out there.
We'll end with that.
Thank you for listening. We obviously love hearing what you think. Your feedback helps us make a better show for you to listen to. So feel free to comment, and you can do it at Facebook, which is the Humans Decoded podcast. And if you're not on social, you can always email any questions to us at outreach@kirantrace.com. And thanks for listening. We love you.